Welcome to the Mind Chimp podcast.
Hey Mirco, welcome to the Mind Chimp podcast. How are we doing?
Very good. Thank you, Danny.
No, thank you. It's it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. And I guess you're over in New York, right? So what time are we? Your time now?
Oh yes, I'm here in New York, and actually it's early as 9:50 in the morning.
Oh, nice.
And I just back from the trip from Europe, and I woke up very early today because I'm still have the jet lag.
So yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that actually, because I think we can get into that. But just before we start, I tend to ask my guests a tagline, a log line to summarize themselves. What would your log line be?
My log line, definitely, it's a life in ambiguity. I want to say, professionally talking.
Okay, a life in ambiguity.
Yeah, because I just realized actually something I realized actually recently. I always be a little bit borderline because I always like to think a little bit different, And when you think different, what's happening? You just be in that borderline to be in two different space, and that's kind of often ambiguity when you work at. Just for giving you an understanding, I consider myself a designer. I always be a designer since actually when I was a kid. But growing up, I'm starting to explore this design side in all the different ways, sometimes in things people never think is considered design. And that's taken me sometimes to have some ambiguity with the people around me and the work I'm doing, because they're thinking I'm doing like a visual design of nice and pretty stuff. Versus sometimes right now I'm trying to apply design, organization or management or business, and that often create this sort of ambiguity only because I like think different, and I'm curious to see, okay, what I can do in a different way, what the things can be different. Yeah, definitely that's my log line.
No, and I like that. I like it. I think it's a very, very interesting one, which I want to touch upon in just a sec. But just before we do that, What I need you to do for me, please, Mirco, is I need you to pick 4 numbers for me from 1 to 100.
4 number. Let's keep 5. Let's take. Let me see. 56.
Okay.
Give me 7.
Okay.
And 75.
Perfect. We will come to them a little bit later on.
Okay.
So I guess just to kind of get us warmed up, I tend to ask my guests I'm going to give them some terms and the buzzwords, and I want you to tell me what comes to mind as soon as I say this word, if that makes sense. Okay. So the first word is design thinking.
Okay.
So what comes to mind when I say that?
Oh, the first things come in mind when you say design thinking, it's a lot of, buzzword, very probably commercial and marketing terms right now to selling a better way to work, to selling some kind of workshop for the clients and stuff like that.
Okay.
I feel, I spend a lot of time to analyze what's happening around this world. And I really see over the time, especially in the last 5 or 6 years, this term has become more as just marketing products that people sell versus actually what they really represent itself.
Okay. The next term is experience design.
That's another ambiguous term. Well, experience design, I think a lot of people are thinking in the market when we're talking about experience design is more like create an experiential space, like, you enter in a beautiful museum or shop or an event, you experience a momentum in some way, versus for me is more like what actually the entire business is right now. I mean, we experience life, we experience work, we experience our consuming life, if you want. And I think there are this big distinction between people are always thinking in a smaller part of what actually this tab is meaning.
Okay, and we'll do one more.
Yeah.
Employee experience. What comes to mind when I say that?
That's another big cool statement right now. Your questions are very tricky because of actually each one we would require maybe a lot of time of talking about. I don't know. I feel like experience design. Not experience design. Employee experience. Right now, it's become one of the terms we are going to see much more often on the market. It's become always more important. But I feel it's becoming important because it's about a generational change right now in the market, in the workplace. We have a new generation joined to the companies, and they have a different mindset. They see the work more as a place where make a valuable contribution, where actually they want to make a change, they want to be part of the system of the company itself. Versus the previous generation, they see the work more like a task-oriented job. You go to work for do something. The new generation is expecting to go into work and be valuable for the business. That's changed the way they see the jobs. And because now we talk about a lot of employee experience, is because the new generation, they're expecting that. They expect an experience from the job place. And I think it's become very, very, very important because there are completely new type of expectation from the workforce.
Okay. So it, I guess, kind of, we've engaged quite a bit back and forth on on LinkedIn and whatnot. But maybe for my listeners, maybe you could give us a bit of a brief tour of kind of who you are and where you've come from, and where right through to where you are right now, I guess.
Sure. Let me try to be in short. I'm Italian. I grew up in Italy, and now I'm living in the United States, New York. I got married right now a few years ago here in New York. I definitely become a New Yorker. Is how I consider myself right now. I always, let's say, since I was a kid, 10 years old, I always wanted to do something in the space of design and creativity. Was clear to me, was my my path. But of course, I have no idea what actually does it mean. I start early, I have to say. I'm one of the generation start with a Commodore 64, as many others, I believe.
Okay.
I coded my first games when I was 14. I learned to code because I want to design the game. I started to work when I was 19 in a small graphic studio in my town. And from that, actually, I explored 3D animation, visual design. In the 1995, I was lucky to have one of the first internet access points in my town, because the office where I was working was really close to the internet point. And I learned and I discovered internet. I started to do my first website. It was 1995, and be fascinated by the idea of interaction design, where for interaction, I don't mean limited to the design, the interface in the computer, but as well how the people interact with each other, and embrace more like a psychological perspective about how the things are working together. In the 90, let's say probably the big milestone of my life happened in 1997, 98, where I have my personal website. A personal website at the time was one of the few websites fully developed with the Macromedia Flash, technology very popular at the time. And it made me very popular online. I actually had 200,000 unique visitors in my website every month. It was actually a huge number for 1998. That gave me a lot of visibility. I started to work with a lot of international companies. In the 1999, I have the Wall Street Journal. This is like a cool story. The Wall Street Journal called me on my mobile phone. And of course, I was a young guy, I have no experience. I was speaking very a little English, scholastic English. And I got this call and I heard someone say on the phone, "Hi, we are Wall Street Journal." And I was like, "That's a joke? What is talking about?" No, I have, let me thinking, I was 24 years old. And actually, this guy from Wall Street Journal, they discovered my website. They'd be impressed about how I have a completely different vision about what was online experience. And they told me, "Listen, we are thinking to develop the millennial edition of the Wall Street Journal line. And we want to create like a very futuristic vision about what can be the digital space in the future. And I think you would be the right person to helping us to design this idea." And I was, and I mean, from a side, I was excited. The other side, I was scared because it was something completely new for me. First, I have a problem to understand the English. Second, I have like, for the first time talking with someone who was sound for me more like I don't know, a god. It was very unusual situation. But definitely from that point, everything has changed for me. In 1999, my personal job has become an agency. I have my first agency. I have people I believe and trust in me. They put some money. We built this company together. I stayed in this company for 3 years after I learned some important things like never make a company with people who have much more money than you. And it was very useful. From that point, I started working as a consultant, as a freelancer for almost 8 years with a lot of people, especially in the US. I have a client in California, I have a client in New York. I start to shifting my focus from do only web design, interaction design, what at the time we call platform design. A term actually represent everything we do today in terms of products and service design or experience design. But at the time we talked about 2003, 2004. We don't have this kind of terms. We don't have this kind of culture. Everyone will say, "Oh, we need to design and create a platform." And I did a lot of work for healthcare, fitness, education platform, e-commerce platform. It was actually a great learning for me until I come out on 2008, if I remember, yeah. I decide I need to work with some structure, some company, because I want to learn more about what's happening in that space. And I work for an agency in Milan, Le Bournet, who have the client Fiat at the time before the merging with the Chrysler. And at that point, I'm moving to New York for LGA, where I start to work in another big platform at the time, like an Nike Plus or MasterCard for the future of the digital payment. But another big milestone for my career definitely have been 2011, when actually I moved in Phoenix, Arizona, completely different from New York City. And in Phoenix, Arizona, I'm starting to work as a chief design officer for this venture incubator, where actually we help early stage startup to grow and actually to become a company. And what I was curious at the time, this early startup was usually funded by a personal investor or private investor, or sometimes a small or medium company, where actually they have the vision for a new business opportunity, but they don't have the power or the experience or the right context to develop a new complete business from scratch. And as a venture incubator, we help these people to starting this kind of new business. And for me, it was a great, because finally I have the opportunity to explore not only design in terms of shaping products and services, but as well what you need around for making the products and services become successful. Meaning, what kind of impact an organization you need around, what kind of business model you need around, how you monetize, how you planning, how you growth, how you actually engage with the audience. It was for me a great moving forward. And at that point, I realized, okay, I see a big connection between what I'm doing and this design perspective with things I usually not consider design. And I had the opportunity to move in New York in 2014 for Ogilvy. And now, Ogilvy, it's one of the iconic company in marketing and advertising and brand. As a large corporation, right now we have 40,000 people worldwide. And I say, Mirco, if you move in a company like Avison, you have an unbelievable opportunity to understand and explore more design in a space of complexity. Not only complexity for the client they have, but complexity as well in Ogilvy as well, how design can change or can find a space in a complex structure as this one. And I take the opportunity and I move in New York and I start to work in Ogilvy as head of design. What I'm trying to do is definitely 50% of my time figure out and helping the design to find the proper space in the organization and in which area can provide the help, and the other 50% actually working on the client side. This is my career in short.
Okay, so kind of, it's fascinating. Your journey sounds really kind of one of growth and excitement, I think. But kind of, so, for me, Mirco, you're one of the people, I've read your book, which we'll touch upon for sure. But, for me, if someone was to say to me, where do you want to be in 4 years' time, to me, I would say I would want to be kind of like where Mirco is right now, and kind of working for a company like Ogilvy who are kind of, who are great. But maybe you could kind of share what a day in the life of you looks like from a professional point of view, and kind of what does a standard day look like for you?
Yeah, sure. I think this is a question I ask myself as well many times. I remember when I was 20, 24 years old, I was dreaming, oh my God, one day I will work in this office where actually maybe I can see New York from the window. And now sometimes actually that's happened almost every day. And I realize, oh my God, I realized my dream. I can't believe it. That's kind of weird things you're never thinking about, but actually at a certain point in your life, if you stay focused on the same things, you get it. And now I'm more like in the phase where I'm 43 years old. I definitely reached my goal in the life, but at the same time, I don't feel to be on the final destination at all. Actually, I'm feeling like to be on the beginning of something else, but I have no idea again what is it. For sure, what I like and what I'm passionate about is I know there is always a different way to do the things. And all the time I see people don't opening their eyes to think in that way. That made me passionate about to work on that area. I don't know what can be really my future. I really no idea what I will be in the next 4 or 5 years, but I know for sure what I want to do. It's always continue to looking for different way to see the problem, different way to facing this kind of work and job, but thinking different and inspiring people, helping people to change idea, change perspective. That's definitely something I want to do. Maybe, I don't know, maybe one day I'm going to finish teaching, but actually would be one of my dreams in some way. I have no idea if it can happen because I don't have any academic background. I learned my work and I developed my career by working. I never been in any sort of university. Unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity. But definitely, let's say, I don't know if I see myself in 4 or 5 years, but my dream over the time will be have an opportunity to teach.
Okay, and I think that will be fascinating to watch and be part of. I think so. Kind of, when we kind of look into your book and we're talking about in your book, we talk about kind of culture and org structure and org design. So how is the culture and organizational structure at Ogilvy? Is it one of, when we look at your hierarchy, you can be talking from this like lone wolf, right, all the way up to kind of going teal and the steps between that. But if I was to ask you kind of what does that look like where you are right now, how would that match?
Well, I mean, let me give you a big insight before actually why I dedicated this time of this kind of aspect. Now, in many years, I was working in different projects and startups. I learned something that was fascinating for me. I met in my life a lot of people with amazing ideas, a lot of people with incredible technology or fantastic products. And what I learned all the time, if someone didn't make in business or in general, making their idea become popular, always been by one simple reason. They don't have the right mindset or they don't have the right organization around to make the things happen. And that's actually triggered me the idea, okay, I need to work more on the context of what I'm designing for make what I'm designing come to life. And in Ogilvy, it's a challenging, not because actually there is no understanding of the value of the organization. There are a lot of smart people can provide a valuable contribution. The problem is when you work in a large organization and you work with many other large companies as clients, you need to find a way to create a dialogue with this client. And each client have a completely different mindset, different assumption, different methodology, and again, organization itself. And then it's become difficult now to create a unified way of working because you need to be different often with each client you have. And that actually has become fascinating for me because you see the organization must be less as a structure, more as a fluid. You need to act more like in a living organism and less as a machine. And it's become an everyday learning, an everyday changing. It means you cannot define a method and process. You have to define a way of thinking. And by using that way of thinking every day, change your method and change your process to match the context.
Yeah, I think I had one of my aha moments was from your book, and I think one of the titles of the chapters was kind of like this design thinking, and actually it's a design as a way of thinking, not design thinking.
Correct.
That's kind of what I took from it anyway. But I love that thing because I'm kind of the first person to kind of say design thinking. Okay, but design thinking has a lot of flaws, a hell of a lot of flaws, I think. And actually, what you've done by just kind of tweaking that sentence, it kind of gave me my aha moment. Actually, what I like to think I do is look at design as a way of thinking and not design thinking. Mm-hmm. So I kind of when did you have that kind of that aha moment, I guess, for you to kind of come up with that kind of design as a way of thinking?
Oh, good question. I'm about to feel it in the latest years because, the term design thinking has become extremely popular in the last 4 or 5 years. Before, I think it was something very, very few people was mentioning. Very few people have an idea what it was and what does it mean. And I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, definitely, I'm starting to follow all this kind of community buzz about design thinking. There are a lot of people give an incredible contribution of that. The guys of IDEO, but as well many other companies as Fjord, Frog Design. They did a huge contribution to the community to understanding this one. But I realize they're talking about different way to do the things. And unfortunately, I agree with everything. But let me thinking, okay, why everyone are correct? I mean, I agree with everyone, but everyone's a little bit different. Means should be something else. And I start to realize maybe we need to make it very different between what is design thinking as a workshop for teaching people how to work with the kind of design mindset. And what actually is the design as a way of thinking, that neutral and holistic approach? What are the fundamental make you making a choice? And my aha moment was okay, maybe the design as a way of thinking is not a way to work. It's more like a way to making choice. And that's changed everything for me. And I see vision just as a way to I define what is more important for me to do next. I realized it was actually how I was always working. And unfortunately, I come back to the initial consideration is what always made my point of view ambiguous, because people say, "Oh, you always change the way you do the things," and I always say, "No, I'm still always making action and do the things using the same approach." And I realized because there was no an approach, it was actually just a way to make a choice.
And I think one of the biggest issues, and you kind of mentioned it already, but the term design thinking is a marketing term now. It's kind of been watered down way away from its original intent of what it was for. And actually, one of my biggest questions, which I'm kind of challenging the company with at the moment, is we're marketing design thinking, and actually we should really be saying human-centered design, because design thinking is this kind of tool set, let's just say this mindset, but actually human-centered design will never go out of being the exciting new thing. Fundamentally, everything needs to be human-centered designed. It needs to be thinking about the human, their interactions, their touch points and whatnot. But I think what we're seeing now is, I think if you used to put it into kind of like a curve, you've seen it come in, you've seen it kind of peak, and now all of a sudden you're seeing this design thinking, people are slowly going, it's not all it's cracked up to be. And I think the reason behind that is because it's so watered down from the original idea of it.
Oh yeah, and I can tell you more actually. What I see in the market happening is, many cases design thinking is become just a way to helping people to have a more systematic approach. And in fact, there are actually different group of people are say, "Oh, this is not design thinking, this is system thinking," and that actually is very valuable for the company today, especially in the context we are living. In many other cases, design thinking has become synonymous about, "Oh, this is a new way of collaboration and working, is a different way to removing cultural silos in the organization," and still be very valuable, but that's another things. I mean, I definitely, how you say design thinking has become very marketing term, very inclusive, representing a lot of different things, and is going to help in the group of people, companies, or community to learn completely different things. But yeah, it's going to become a little bit different from what was initially identified design thinking as a way, to define how the design mindset take an action. And something else, actually, I'm still realize my haha moment was, in many years, I think everyone have experienced that. When you work in a large team, you have always two sides of people. That see the problem and try to change the situation for solve the problem. And the other side of the people are usually try to don't change the situation, but just make working the things how they are. It's a classic, challenge you've seen a team where you have, let's say, a developer or a designer from the side, and the strategist and the businessman from the other side discussing and find a way to solve the problem with a different way. And I realize we have always these two types of mindset: the design as a way of thinking and the strategy as a way of thinking, where the design make an assumption to, I have to make a change for making the optimization and create the condition to solve the problem of actually making happen the things I want to do. Versus the strategic thinking start with assumption to, I'm not changing the system, what we're talking about, and I'm just trying to fill in the gap I see the system and to growth. And that was the moment when I say, okay, the design as a way of thinking is something different. Is more like how I want to approach the problem versus how I'm working to solve the problem.
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing now with design thinking as well is actually, well, I guess kind of looking at kind of my industry, I think people are marketing ideation sessions as design thinking, for one. And I think a lot of people are applying design thinking overlay on a very weak and probably a very light touch, when actually it's not really uprooting the real problem, which sometimes it is the system. It's not necessarily, it's that kind of why, and then you get to kind of the root of actually what the problem is, and the problem is that system approach, not necessarily this end result approach.
Correct. That's very difficult to teach to the people now. Like, you don't have to solve the problem, you have to change the system for create the condition, because that problem will be solved.
Yeah, and it is that kind of movement of all parts, not of one. But it's a really interesting one, and I feel like we could probably just talk about this for an hour alone. But I guess kind of just trying to get back into kind of this, just a little bit more about you, I guess, Mirco. So, I think when we go into these businesses and, we go for interviews and we go for, our next job, our next career step, we're always told to kind of, to sell the best self. And actually, I think the better question to ask is, actually, what was your biggest failure? I kind of like to think, what does your failure resume look like? So if I was to ask you, in your whole space of your career, Mirco, what's been the biggest failure, what you've come up against? And maybe it's a failure which, in the instance, it was a failure, but actually, later on down the line, it's ended up being a massive positive for you. What moment jumps out to you?
Okay, that's a very good question. Let me try to frame. There are parts of me where I actually see a lot of failure in my life. Failure, professionally talking, where actually I've been probably in the right position, in the right moment, on the right idea, and I was not able to take all the proper advantage from that momentum in these ideas. I told you in the past, I made agency, I made a company with other people. When I was in Phoenix, so technically it could be actually a great opportunity for me as well for my entire life, and be like, done for from now until the end of my days. It didn't happen. That because probably I didn't have that approach with the people, to be sometimes very direct. I know I'm a person, I'm still always learning, I'm still always thinking, is there always someone outside know more of me? I never feel to be myself, like someone know the things or be on the top of the pyramid. I always feel myself as someone is in the middle bottom of the pyramid. And sometimes that approach actually is useful, but not always useful, because sometimes you need to have more leadership, and if you see a problem coming, you need to be able to lead in a situation and try to avoid that problem coming. But in the same times, all the time I didn't have this kind of behavior or approach in the life. I'm happy about all the failure I experienced, because if I know this kind of things today and I'm still doing what I'm doing today, it's just because I learned from this situation. But actually, again, I'm in that kind of ambiguous position where I realize I fail a lot of things, but I'm happy about the failure I made it. The failure, I know it's kind of sound weird. I feel failure. I feel that I made failure, but at the same time, no.
Okay. So if, let me set a scene for you. Let's pretend you I don't know, baseball or something, and 1 million fans are coming out of a baseball stadium. And as we come out of a stadium, all of them 1 million fans are going to see a billboard. Okay? What would you put on that billboard for 1 million fans to see?
Oh, I have no idea. tell me more about the situation, the context.
Yeah. So this could be this billboard. It could be the thing to kind of, what quotes or what would you say to kind of inspire, motivate 1 million people? What would you put on that billboard? What message?
Okay. Well, definitely, I can tell you, and I'm pretty sure about that. That's my favorite question ever. What if?
Okay.
And I can tell you why. Actually, my wife, she always joking about that because she say, "Why you always have this kind of question? What if?" I told you, I always believe it's about a different way to do things. I always believe the things that we see always can be a little bit different. And I think asking to yourself all the time, especially when you like feel like, oh, maybe everything's going wrong, or I don't know what to do, or okay, now I don't know, I'm confused. Starting asking, what if something's different? What if maybe we lost the match, but actually this is not a loss? What if maybe I don't find a job, but maybe that's an opportunity for me to think about something I never think about. I have another opportunity to do. That is what always trigger a different way of thinking. That's what always make you realize what can be your next step forward. And I've always this idea that things can be different. The things maybe you never be right, or maybe you never be wrong. That's definitely my favorite quote or question or inspirational things. Give the people the opportunity to thinking about, is there always something different outside? Is there always different way to do things? There always people maybe are not always against you, but there are people are thinking like you. You are not alone. That's for me is the most important things.
Okay.
A billboard with what if? Ask yourself.
I like it. So if I was to ask you, if you had to give a gift of a book to 5 people, and maybe this is a book what has either changed your mindset on things or, shaped your perception on life or whatnot. But if you was to give one book as a gift to 5 people, what book would you give?
It could be, I have many books, actually I like it and love it. But probably one book actually change actually being impactful for me, definitely. It is a book, this is a story, actually, some kind of diary, on the life diary of an Italian journalist, and it's called Tiziano Terzani. This guy has spent like decades to be a journalist for a very important European magazine and in the East Asia. He always been a guy is very, very pragmatic, talking about war or social problem. And in his book, actually, it tells his journey, where actually he realized over the time he spent to be very pragmatic, talking about money, talking about war, talking about social. He shared actually his evolution of his soul to become from skeptics about everything was, I don't know, like in Asian culture, magic or spiritual or other no realistic things. And it's become actually someone much more passionate about this kind of ambiguous side of the life. Unclear, where actually people can have a completely different perspective. And I love it because he shared how valuable was for him at a certain point in his life to understanding another part of the life he always reject. He never want to learn more. And that's change. It gives me an idea about, yes, maybe what I'm doing, I'm not the only one to start to look at the true and understanding what I have to do in my life as well in the space I never look at it. And it's come back to my question, what actually you're considered something you never thinking was an option.
Okay. So kind of taking you back a little bit to, and this question can take you back to actually wherever, but in your whole lifespan, can you remember the very first time you ever got in trouble?
For the first time I got in trouble.
And maybe this was as a child or whatnot.
No, and I mean, fire fortunately never happened. I never felt in trouble in that way. I felt more like, but for me, something happened when I was younger. When I was in my first company, when I told you I learned how to make a company with the people who have much money than you. It was a certain point where actually I spent a lot of years working with this company because I felt it was more like my baby. I felt was my entire life and makes sense to do everything I can do for the company. But one day things has changed and I asked myself, oh, the situation is very weird, frustrating. This is Mirco. I know this is your baby. I know this is the company is your life, but this is what you really want to do in your life. Or maybe it's about something else. And I start to change my approach with the stakeholder. And of course, that creates kind of fighting situation. And that was the problem. I mean, it was probably the first time where I felt, oh, I'm in trouble right now. I'm in trouble with something bigger than me. And that definitely was the first time. After that, I don't know. I think probably I'm feeling trouble every time I'm trying to do the things in a different way because after that, it's a fight in some way.
Yeah,
no. You need to figure out how to go ahead. Sometimes it's a good trouble,
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think it's that inner rebel and inside you. It can be. I think we see that a lot of times. Sometimes people look at it and go, "Oh, he's just kind of disruptive." When actually, you're doing disruption for challenge and for change, and it can be perceived different ways. So I think it's natural to have that rebellious side, definitely, and I think it's actually a really good trait to have.
Yeah, sometimes, you say you need to have some courage to do. I remember, I should probably now realize that one of the recent situations where I felt in trouble was a few years ago when I said, I think I have a lot of things to say, and I want to share the things I wanted to say. And I'd like have an opportunity to participate in some conference like the last one I did. And I remember I started to talk with different people. I'm starting writing article and share and see what's happening until one day the opportunities happen. And I was like, oh God, okay, it's happening. And now I'm in trouble. What I'm doing? Not in trouble for what I have to say, but just in trouble because I never used to be someone like to go in the stage and talk, I never be the kind of alpha type person. And you're in the moment that actually you get what you want, but you have to learn how you do it. It's a good kind of trouble, but it's stressful.
Yeah, no, definitely, especially if you kind of not, that isn't your world. But I think we have kind of, well, we do. We have a mutual friend contact in Joe Pine. But I guess taking Joe out of it for a second. I think we've both said the Experience Economy has been a great book for us, and I personally, speaking for me, I've took a lot from it. But yeah, maybe you could share a little bit about your take on kind of the Experience Economy and actually why it was important to you.
Yeah, sure. But one mention about John Pine, because for me it was actually a great relation. I was already working on this book. And I didn't know the existence of all the work of Japan did on experience economy part now. Because of course I was working on this book and tried to define more what I learned in my life and how I see based on the experience I have in my life. Everything was around an experience offer. People were actually really focused on the type of experience. In the middle of writing my book, randomly I discovered Chopin, and I started to read his book and then read all the work he did. And it was fascinating for me because I felt, okay, maybe I'm not doing something wrong. Maybe I see something right, and I'm the only one actually believes something different. And I have a great admiration for what he did. Actually, all the work he did so far, for me, still be. I'm a big fan of what he's doing.
Mm.
And I was happy because I realized again what I was doing with my book was something more like complementary on his work. I was much more focused about, okay, how created the condition for deliver that kind of experienced business approach, how the organization should be organized. I took it before. Now, when I was in the startup world, I was care about not only to shape the product, but how to shape the context necessary around the product for be successful. And I realized my approach was all about creating an experience-based business. And yeah, I mean, all the entire work will start around this kind of approach.
So I guess for me, you know, kind of moving on to your book actually now, and for me, like I mentioned at the beginning, you know, for me it was when I read your book, I was like, finally, there's quite a decent book out. There's a decent book out there. What's about this kind of modern look at kind of thinking, this modern thinking to design and like I say, design as thinking, and actually just understanding the corporate world as well. I think the organisational structures and stuff, but kind of why did you choose?
Say it again. Sorry, I lost you for a moment.
Yeah, just kind of understanding why it was that you chose to write a book. Yeah, how was that for you as an experience?
Yeah, I mean, it was actually random because I told you I started to sharing all my things and my ideas 2-3 years ago, writing article online on Medium, on LinkedIn. I'm starting to be part of some conference and be part of in some conference. I approach different people with brilliant ideas. And I was starting thinking, and I want to talk about this kind of characteristic later, but my superpower is see pattern. I want to talk to you later about the superpower. And all of these things I was doing, I was seeing always more often like a connection between everything. And I realized I need to understand what exactly is this connection and why does it mean. And I see between the idea of the experience economy, I see a connection with the rise of the design thinking in the market. I see a connection with the rise of this approach to be agile. Everyone talking about agile is not a big buzzword. I see a rise in the problem in the market. The company has, how we talk with the millennial is a new generation. They be having different way. I see an incredible connection actually between the incredible business the new economy made compared to the old business. Why the new economy actually made a rise so quickly? They make company turning a 1 billion company in 2 years. But actually, in the past we have incredible businesses has spent maybe 20 years to become a billion company. Why? This company was rising faster, better, more solid, and create more innovation. Everybody asked, what was the difference between all these kind of things? And I was writing article until at a certain point I realized, I have a narrative for connecting all these kind of things. I see a connection between all these kind of things. Maybe I can write a book and connecting and explain this kind of pattern I see between all the things. And that's how my book actually started. Last October, I started to take all this kind of content research I did and started to put all the things together. In November, December, I wrote and tried to find define a little bit the narrative for connecting everything and give everything. And I spent January and the beginning of February to do my proof review and proofreading. Thank you to the support of my wife, she is a proper American and English speaker and writer. and I published the book. It was actually a pretty fast process because it was the result of the work I did in the last 3-4 years.
So kind of just kind of jumping into that book, and for them who don't know the book's called Agencies and Brands in the Employee Experience. But it kind of is I think the book is fascinating for me personally. But kind of getting in, and I'll put the in the show notes a link to the book for people to kind of go ahead and buy that for sure. But you know, when you look at your chapters of your book, which one was the most favorite for you to write or research about?
My favorite chapter, because I probably more attached about that, is probably the last part when I took more about give some indication about what can be the leadership or the management mindset in this kind of context, because I think it's talking about a lot of interesting different way to approaching the things.
Okay.
I'm still thinking in particular a specific chapter. Let me think of a moment. Well, definitely the mindset of the leadership. I think the ability to, everyone in the market talking about the market is in continuous change. The company, the business, how you approach, you always must be ready to change, and that's create a new things. Now you need to be able to lead the team to feel comfortable to explore the unknown, to take in the direction to uncertain path, because that's the only way actually you can make innovation. And this approach is very common in the new economy company, like, we have seen company like Facebook or Amazon, many other growers are crazy, but there's no common approach in the large organization. I never meet usually a manager feel happy to take the lead in an uncertain and unknown path or ideas, because it's risky. Versus now, we need to be able to feel causing about that. We need to figure out our methodology to take a risk and maybe transform the risk. This is coming back to the question, what if the risk and knowing just a risk might be an opportunity? And I think that's my favorite part.
Okay. So I guess kind of looking at we talk about experiences and we use that term to mean many different things. But if I was to ask you Mirco, what do you think the future of experiences is? What would you say to that?
And for me, it's the idea to consider the business as an experience. Consider the outcome and the purpose of the business as an experience, where business don't sell products, don't sell services, but products and services serve only for the purpose to deliver a specific kind of experience. And if you want a sample, I give you one very pragmatic. Thinking about Apple, everyone know Apple. Apple has been probably since Steve Jobs as back in Apple in the end in the 90s, the first company moving forward with this approach, and follow Apple many other new economy company. But if you're thinking about when Apple introduced in the beginning of 2000 the first iPod, I don't know if you remember how many critics they got it. How many people in the market say, what Apple is doing? Why Apple now is moving into the digital Walkman business? And everyone was confused. The same things happened again in the 2006, I think, when they introduced the iPhone. Again, everyone was like, what Apple is doing? Why they shift into the mobile phone industry? They want to change it. They are a computer company. Why we do a smartphone? Instead of actually, for me, what was behind the main thing on the leadership, especially for Steve Jobs at the time in Apple, was we are selling an experience. If whatever is necessary for deliver that experience, to create the condition to deliver that experience and the value the experience provide, we are going to put on the market. and iPhone, Apple Watch, Apple TV. There's only few of the necessary products or services they need for offer that. And for me, look like that's working very well, because today, based on the survey, we can see people in general are more attached to the experience rather than the brands. That means if the experience is good, they stay with you. But if the experience is not good, doesn't matter if they love your brand, they never stay with you again. And Apple understood that, and now they have one of the huge community attached to them, not because actually they love the brand, but they love the experience that brand provides. And that's, for me, is a big change. And this is how I see the future of the business, where a business must be focused to offer an holistic experience. And whatever needed for deliver that, that's what actually they are selling the market.
Yeah, so I completely agree. I think when we look at kind of this employee experience, or even the employee life cycle, actually what you're doing is it's a grand experience design broken down into macro experiences and moments, and then broken down again into kind of nano experiences. Yeah. It's a consistent, the employee experience or life cycle or whatever, it's a collection of moments what matter, and I think exactly. It's interesting to see how some companies, I guess, are kind of going with that, and some are still very, very stuck in the past. And then I guess the same question is, the people who are struggling in the past are asking the question, why can't we attract the talent? And, well, you've kind of got your answer, right?
No, it's a generational gap now, a shifting. We are thinking about the new generation. And I'm not talking about only the millennial. I'm talking especially coming down to the Generation Z, or actually kids now facing the college. They are a generation grow up in the reality in the world, hyper-connected. That means these people not only well understand how the system dynamics operate, and they are comfortable with that. They know how to live with the system, especially thinking about, we live in an age where we live with the system around us, working with us, living with us. These people know what's the value of being able to deliver from the system and combine all the things properly together. The previous generation, no. The previous generation, they adapt to this kind of new world. They learn how to survive in this new world, but they don't know how to take advantage from this world. The new generation, yes. And that's why they are a preference, a tendency to prioritize experiences versus everything else. And in the workplace, it's the same things. They realize they don't want to do a task-oriented job, because they know that task-oriented job doesn't produce any value in the business. They want to do a job more holistic. They want to experience the workplace in a way is more similar to an experience, because that's in the way they can be part of the business. That's in the way they be able to produce value to the business itself. But how you say it's as a completely different way of thinking and working, expectation.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I think it's going to be an interesting one to watch.
Oh yeah,
and kind of see that transformation and that kind of that sway, because like you say, most organizations are kind of like an organism. It's kind of it's organic, right? It ebbs and flows and it moves. It's not a static thing.
Exactly.
It never has been. How can it be when it's got so much movement happening in and around it?
Exactly. The business today must always less and less look like a machine. It must be more and more become more as a living organism. Decentralized, less structured, more aligned in the way of thinking, and be adaptable and responsive to the world. Actually, it's about something else I want to share with you. I think it's so fascinating for me. It's about a fantastic book wrote by Professor Greg Lukianoff. He's a professor of NYU in New York. And he wrote this book called The Coddling of the American Mind. where he observed what's the behavioral change in the new generation. And what he says, new generation actually, they grow up in an economic context where, yes, the price of technology compared to the past has dropped down. If you're thinking about today, everyone have a phone, a digital phone, a smartphone, because it's affordable. 20 years ago it was impossible. And on the other hand, the cost of the life, like healthcare, housing, education, food, has risen. And if for the past generation, that kind of things was affordable, and if you have a job and you make an assumption, you can have it. Today, there's no anymore. Today, the new generation, they grow up and they know having a job doesn't mean to be able to afford an healthcare, quality life, buy a house or buy good food. This is going to impact in this Generation Z in a way they are not anymore in charge of their life. They have fear. They have fear of being left missing out from the system, this kind of new system of society. And for this reason, they reflect this kind of stress and fear, and it's become evident, especially in the college right now, with a huge attention of a fact like inclusion on diversity, safety, not only physical, but as well psychological and emotional. And the result is like, you see every day in the media, young guys fighting for equality or inclusion or diversity and taking some political sides. You see kids become in the first line defending for protecting the climate and the system of the climate, because they know they must be inclusive of everything. And talking about gender in the college, more often this professor was telling, people expect to don't use a term like she or he, but they prefer use more term like Z for be sure to don't offend anyone or discriminate any diversity of the people. That's fascinating for me, because that is going to change, have an impact in the workplace, because these people are the people who are going to be in the company in the future. They will be the future leaders of the company, where for them, the value to work is not just do something better, but is create a better, inclusive, participative workplace. And in this, I see the connection with the rising of the experience, employee experience value. You must be focused to deliver a great experience employees value, because this generation, they are attached to factor more relevant to the experience rather than just do a simple job.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll definitely check that book out. I think I may have seen. I think I came across that actually in one of your blog posts. I think you referenced it in a blog post. Yeah, so I'll definitely check that one out. But it kind of leads me on to my next question, actually. So obviously, assuming our listeners now, there's an audience member who is listening to this and kind of thinks, actually, I want to be the next head of design. I want to be the next, Mirco in my business, and I want to be that. What would be the 4 books you would recommend as a reading list to kind of get to from where they are now to kind of get into you? And I know that's a hard challenge, because there's many books what shape our minds, but what 4 jump out to you?
Well, it could be many books, but definitely one is very useful for understand actually. I mean, if you want to work in the design in the future, you need to be able to understand how changing things, how transforming things, and probably much more often in the mind of the people rather than in the products you create. And in that way, I think the last book of Tim Brown from Ideal, Changed by Design, it's very inspiring. It can give you a lot of insight about how design can play a different role in things usually have no considered part of the design expectation or a design outcome.
Yeah, It's a great book. That I ended up buying that twice. So I bought it.
Okay,
I bought the
who
audio
knows?
book version, and then I bought the kind of the standard book version, just because there were so many notes I kind of wanted to take away and
Yeah.
kind of just bookmark more than anything. So yeah, that's a great book. Any more? What jumped to mind?
What's see?
Is there any more books? What kind of jumped to mind?
No, at the moment. But you know, I do always an experiment when I try to explain to the people what's the connection between design and uh, innovation, all this kind of stuff. And I recommend something everyone should do. If you're looking for in Amazon or any other website provide books, or in iBook, for example, you're looking for keywords like design, transformation, change, or innovation, you will be surprised how many books are existing talking about the same relation between design and these three words: change, transformation, and innovation. In all these books, I believe is there something you should find inspiring. Something can be valuable for you. People never realize that, but the design is the only way, the perspective design is the only way you can achieve transformation, change, and innovation. And that for me is fascinating.
Yes, no, definitely. So I guess kind of coming near to the end now, I guess, Mirco, and kind of these questions are can be as deep or as light as you want with them. But I guess the next question.
Yeah.
Do you even like yourself?
Yeah. I mean, I told you, I have this kind of approach with my life. Maybe I want to do different things. I want to learn more. I want to change. I never stop in that way. And make me from inside be not happy about what I did so far, because I know I can do better. On the other hand, actually, I like it. I like what I am. I like what I did. Because I know I always try to do everything I can do it. I'm no regret. And when actually I fail, in the end of the day, I realize I learned something that's making me, okay, I did a step forward in any case. I never actually really just did a step back or just stuck in a moment of my life.
Okay, great, awesome. So kind of, you've mentioned you're quite active on Medium and on LinkedIn, but if I was to ask you, who's the 3 people you would recommend to follow? Maybe it's LinkedIn, maybe it's Twitter, but which 3 people would you recommend everybody should follow?
Okay, give me a few minutes to make some thinking about.
Yeah, no, exactly.
If in the meantime I have another question, I'm working on that. I'm in the front of the computer. I'm start to check in my list of people and say, okay, this is a guy I can recommend.
Okay, no, it's fine. So I guess, yeah, the other question then, I guess, is, when we talk about innovation, and innovation is a big buzzword, and for me sometimes innovation is about making things actually just much, much simpler than what they need to be. It's not the next shiny new device or the next, insert whatever. Sometimes it's about making things simpler. But if I was to ask you, what does innovation mean to you? What would you say to that?
Well, actually, I'm very happy you asked me about this question, because I'm still thinking to start sooner or later another book and talking about specific about innovation, because I have not a new theory, but I have my personal theory. I want to write a book and call Design, Ambiguity, and Innovation, because I truly believe innovation is always behind ambiguity. And learning how to deal with ambiguity, learning how to take in a direction of an uncertain direction, an unknown path of something. That's the only way you can make it to reach innovation. But at the same time, it's challenging, because people always say, oh, I want to do something better. I want innovation. But the moment they realize that they have often to do like maybe a step back for do a jump forward, they don't want it anymore. And that's how 90% of the cases innovation die. I'm fascinated about that. I want to try to write something around that, because design as a way of thinking is a way of thinking shaped around the idea to exploring uncertain path. And that's why if you'll be able to apply design as a way of thinking to making choice, safe choice, measurable, and at that point comfortable in the business environment, you can take a lead into an uncertain path, into ambiguity, where you know is going to lead to the innovation in the organization. That's actually what is now fascinating about me. And to closing, I always say, unfortunately, innovation is always in a place is never designed yet. That's why people have struggled to figure out where and what is the innovation itself.
Okay, I like that. I like it. It sounds like a good title for a book as well, for sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to collect now some ideas, and I need to sometimes me too to figure out how I can explain properly in a simple way and in a valuable way, these kind of things, because I'd like to just create like sort of a guide to say, okay, it's cool, how we do it, because at the end of the day, you need to give a valuable help to the people now.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think kind of bringing that back into the corporate context as well, I guess, we see this a lot of time about this, with great diversity comes great innovation, because it's greater broad of ideas, and without this diversity and inclusion, actually it limits the innovation, later on down the line. Yeah. So I think there's definitely a bridge from there to kind of this corporate diversity, and kind of going back to the book which you mentioned around, he or she, and actually there's probably a bridge there, just connecting some dots out loud, I guess. So kind of, yeah, I mean, right at the beginning of the start of this podcast, I kind of, it's interesting when we get talking about what, developing and ideas and shaping and what shaped you. But if I was to ask you, we never stop growing and we're always developing. Mm-hmm. If I was to ask you now, Mirco, what do you want to be when you grow up? What would your answer be?
I think I told you something similar in the beginning. When I was kid, definitely, I was thinking I want to do everything can be impactful. Everything can, in some way, change the world. I want to be a designer. I always thinking about to be something like that without a very clear idea what design actually we represent itself as a term. But today, definitely, I told you, if I see myself when I grow up, I would love have an opportunity to teach or in some way inspire people to think different, to think about it, but always different way to do the things, and exploring this kind of do the things in different way.
Awesome. Okay. So have you got some names for us for people who to follow?
Yes, I have someone. Let me check. I'm gonna give you as well the right maybe connection on the social media to follow. Okay, one is definitely someone I'm started to follow in the last 2-3 years, and I'm a big fan of him. He's not a designer. Is actually a marketing professor of NYU here in New York, and his name is Scott Galloway. I like it because he's not a traditional marketing person. He has an incredible soul. It's a very provocative in a way. He's going to talk in and presenting his idea, and is a great and fascinating man to follow. Scott Galloway. You can follow him on Twitter. He's very active on Twitter. You can see many presentations in YouTube. He wrote a lot of books. That's definitely someone I recommend.
Okay.
And someone else definitely is someone else. Actually, I'm I'm discovering the latest here is Don Norman.
Okay, yeah, done.
Yeah, as one who actually be focused on the idea of the user-centered design. And I like him as well because he's controversial. He's another controversial person. Someone always try to be think in a different way compared to how the entire market is thinking about.
Yeah, his book is great. The Design of Everyday Things. Have you read that one, Mirco?
Yeah, exactly.
Such a good
That's
book.
a good book.
So I guess kind of coming to an end now, and before we end, right at the start of the kind of podcast, I asked you to pick 4 numbers. Yeah. Okay, these numbers attaliate to a list of random items I have on my phone. Now, the story is you're on a desert island and you find these 4 items, and you picked a candle, a lampshade, a ice cube, and some lipstick. So, you're on a desert island. What do you do with these 4 items?
Okay, I missed the first one. The first one was?
A candle.
A candle. Sound like I can... and I'm in the insulate island?
Yep, desert island.
Okay. I hope it's like a sort of Caribbean island. Because at this point I can organize on a sunset. I can use the candle for create a atmosphere. I can actually use the ice cube for make a coconut milk drink.
Okay.
For the sunset. I can use the lipstick for shaping a face on the lampshade.
Okay.
As to simulate like someone else with me and having a very romantic drink on the sunset on the island.
I love it. You're creative genius. So coming to the end, where can people keep up to date with what you're doing, and where can we find your book?
Well, my book is right now in Amazon. And I think Thank You Amazon is available almost everywhere. And it should be available as well on iTunes as ebook. You can find myself in Medium. You're just looking for Mirco Pasqualini. I have always the same handle everywhere. You can find me in Twitter. You can find me in LinkedIn. I always try to share a lot of things because one of the things I believe is sharing. It's the most important things for evolving. I'm not fear to share what I learn because it's the only way I have feedback and I can open conversation with the others and learn myself as well again. And I always like to meet people, and I'm open to everyone to reach me.
Awesome. Well, Mirco, it's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you for joining the show.
Thank you very much, and I love to talk with you, and I really appreciate all actually your point of view and feedback you're giving me about the things I did.
No, it's fantastic. It's awesome. Well, you enjoy the rest of your day there, Mirco, and thanks again.
Thank you very much. You too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.